Will Florida State's offensive line hold up against Alabama's defensive front?
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. The Florida State Seminoles will take on a very challenging Alabama Crimson Tide on August 30th. They've got a lot of talent up front in particular, which is typical for Bama. We're going to break down the O-line for Florida State, as I believe it's the most important position in the game. And I also think it's the most important in terms of what FSU fans want to see. That's my determination. Even more than Tommy Castellanos, even more than Deuce Robinson, etc. After last year's debacle up front, it's time to prove it. And no better way to do that than against the Tide. 4 new transfers come in that are expected to be starters, plus Richie Leonard, who ironically transferred into Florida State last year. So the overarching theme, does this unit gel? I don't know, but that's why you play the games. And we're going to break down individually their pro football focus grades, what they're good at, some of the thoughts that I have on how Bama is going to attack them. And then we'll get into a few matchups in general that it will help set up, meaning skill players and stuff like that, situationally. And then to finish up the show, we're going to talk a little bit about Daniel Lyons. He's number 20 on my countdown of top 22 most important players, not necessarily the best, most important players for Florida State to be successful during the 2025 season. So let's start off with Gunnar Hansen. Left tackle, he played in an offensive line system that flip-flopped according to what Pro Football Focus said. So strong side, weak side, they did some unusual things last year, but he played in 722 snaps. Pro Football Focus has him as a run grade of 58.1. That's a little subpar, to be honest. Pass protection, 63.9, but he only allowed 1 sack. If you only gave up 1 sack and you played in the Southeastern Conference, I'm really not thinking that I understand the grade is 63.9 for pass protection. That should be in the mid-70s. I don't know how they do it, but that seems a little odd. And with that, I also want to mention that it's a situation where Florida State, they're getting a veteran, a guy that started multiple years. He's played a lot of football. That is so important because the left tackle position is going to go against LT Overton. He's going to play in the NFL, 6'5", 280-pound guy. I'll talk a little bit about him here in a minute. And it's also going to see Quay Rousseau at some point, among other pass rushers. Quay was a big-time player out of Carver High School in Montgomery, national recruit. Some services had him as a 5-star. I would imagine that he is the key guy, talking about Hansen, to kind of set everything up for the run game. They cannot get in 3rd and longs, and Bama know they can pass rush against the left tackle, like just one-on-ones. He's got to be really good. You could argue straight up that the most important player in the game for the Noles is Gunnar Hansen. With that, let's move on to left guard. Adrian Medley, 6'5", 305, comes over from UCF, 815 snaps last year. And all these guys, by the way, are seniors. They've all got a ton of experience. Run grade, 66.1, pass protection, 73.2, but he allowed 4 sacks. Again, I don't understand the numbers. 4 sacks is not a good number to give up, but whatever. 73.2 is what they got him graded at PFF. The biggest thing with him is he played with Herb Hand as his coach. He knows Gus Malzahn. I think this will be a very smooth transition. Same basic offense, same coaches. Medley should have the easiest time of it. Luke Pettibone, the leader of Florida State's O-line. 773 snaps last year at Wake Forest, 68.3 run blocking grade, 89.4 pass protection, only allowed 2 sacks. Against Ole Miss, who had arguably the best down group alignment in the country last year, he had an 84.3 pass pro grade just in that game. All their D linemen were NFL guys. So that's pretty impressive. Now, right guard, Richie Winter. This one's a little bit more difficult to judge than last year because he played at Florida State, but only in 4 games. He was banged up. Then he sat out the rest of the year to preserve a year. 230 snaps in 4 games, 61.9, run blocking, 71%. In terms of pass pro, he gave up 1 sack. He's 6'2", 330 pounds. Then the biggest guy on Florida State's line by a pretty big margin, Micah Pettis. He's probably north of 350, but he's 6'7". He played 765 snaps last year for Ole Miss in 11 games. Right tackle, 72.7 for run blocking, 67.2 for pass pro. Most importantly, he gave up 1 sack. If you give up 1 sack in the SEC as a tackle, I'm good. We can look at it however you want, but that's a really good sign. The guys that I think will get the most reps in Bama's deep, so they're going to rotate guys. Overton, who I mentioned a minute ago, 6'5", 280. Tim Keaton, he's like 6'2", 325. He's a kid out of Ramsey High School in Birmingham, big-bodied nose guard. James Smith, another kid that played with Russaw at Carver. Good luck to the teams that played them in high school. 6'3", about 300 pounds, another 5-star recruit. And then Quay Russaw himself, the edge, the speediest of the group. He's under 250, but he is a pure pass rusher. When we come back, we're going to talk about that matchup and a few of the things that I expect that FSU is going to try to do to offset these pass rushers, the stunts, and the games they're going to use. And just as an added bonus here, note that Lawson and that group of linebackers for Bama, when they blitz and stunt, very veteran group. That is next here on Locked On Seminoles. We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you're dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with stress of getting tickets. That's where Game Time comes in for you. Game Time takes getting tickets a little bit easier in terms of the speed, and it's just easy to use in general because you can do it right on your phone. Prices actually drop as you get closer to the show or the game starting off, and it's 60% off with last-minute ticket deals that are opportunities for you. My best thing about Game Time and why I like it, I can see the seat. If you haven't used the Game Time app to buy tickets, and again, concerts, baseball, football, whatever you want, you can click on a seat and see the venue from that seat. It's a great feature. I'll give them credit for doing it. That makes life a lot easier. Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. Please become an everydayer if you have not already. Hit that like and subscribe. LT Overton is the first player I want to talk about in terms of matchups and go back to Hansen. Yeah, they're going to do one-on-one battles, but he is a power player. At 280, maybe even bigger. That's just what they list him at. He's a guy that can play inside, outside, do all kinds of things. You'll see him in a 4-eye technique. You'll see him 5 technique. They're going to move him around, do different things. That's my estimation. I think they'll show, maybe I'm wrong, but maybe a few plays at least, they'll run some 3-man just straight up because they got Keenan in the middle, who's a monster at 325 pounds. They will probably 2-gap a little bit, is my guess, just to try to throw Florida State off. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but with Overton, you can certainly have, like, it's almost like having an extra defensive tackle on the field because he's so big, but he runs like a smaller guy. Like Overton reclassed and he went up a year and still played pretty early at Texas A&M before he transferred to Bama because they have so much talent in that body. Like he's not a normal guy. I'm curious to see what they're going to do, but Hansen's got to be ready for him. And then on the other side, depending on how they flip-flop it, Russaw's different kind of player. He's only about 6'2" or so, but he's 240, 245, really twitchy. He's got a good punch. I think that Florida State will give him a chance to go one-on-one with him, but I also think Biscuit will play quite a bit. That's Marcuston Douglas, the tight end that transferred to Arizona State and came back. He's 275, 280, I'm guessing. You're probably going to do a little bit, I don't know what percentage I want to, maybe 50% of the time you'll chip the defensive ends. That's what they call it. Tight end will concentrate on bumping the edge rusher to start to give your tackles a chance to get an advantage. I think you got to do that quite a bit. I know coaches hate doing that, but you can't just go 5-man protection all day long against Bama's front. It's not a good way to do it. Good way to go, excuse me. I think they will also blitz and stun a lot because it's game one. And they know Florida State's offensive line, while experienced individually, they have never started a game together. You're going to throw the kitchen sink at them. So I also think that some of the bigger running backs may even play in an H-back role, plus Pittman, the tight end that transferred from UCF to Florida State. You're going to see 6-man protections in some capacity. Depends on how you want to label it. Because even if they go out into a route, I think the running backs and tight ends are going to be requested to chip quite a bit on the edges. We'll see how the interior holds up. It's more difficult to use running backs and tight ends there because you don't want as many bodies right in front of the quarterback if he needs to step up in the pocket. But I digress. I think they're going to do a lot of different things with that. But here's the final part. If Florida State cannot pass protect at an elite level, not good, elite level, they're not going to beat Bama. Malzahn, Norvell, all these people, they know that. They're going to have to change it up constantly. Just using one type of protection or just bringing it back and leaving them in the backfield. They got to mix it up constantly. And they probably will. But then it's just really about players. I know people like to throw the bus at the coaches and when a team loses in any sport. This will be more about Florida State's players. Veteran O-line coach, veteran play caller, a veteran head coach is a play caller. They've got the right people to come up with the game plan here for what Bama's going to do. But do they have enough talent to overcome Bama? Bama's more talented than Florida State up front. They are. That doesn't mean scheme and play calling can't mitigate it to a certain degree, but you still get down to those few plays that are critical. A reverse pass, a reverse itself, going max protection, going up top to Deuce Robinson. Those kind of plays where you have a chance to change the field position. In particular, Florida State's O-line must be elite, really good. You can't have those plays turn into turnover sacks and just discombobulation. It must be clean. That's what I'm curious about. That's on players. They're going to practice those plays over and over and over and over and over again. Can they hit on the big plays? You know, Gus is going to dial up a few trick plays, halfback option, reverse, something. I have no idea. He's got a full bag, and he's really good at using them, but I don't think he's going to feel as comfortable in the second half, just as an example, if in the first half, Bama just swallows FSU's O-line up, because those slower developing plays are even more likely to end up being negative plays, turnover sacks, if you run them in the second half after Bama knows, like their stat, okay, we're rushing forward, we're getting plenty of pressure. Now let's mix it up on them, do a little zone blitz, a few stunts, etc. They're not going to want to try to go against that. That's my guess. Gus will take some chances, but he's also a realist. They have to win those one-on-ones, even if they are chipping a little bit here and there. There's going to be some plays they're not, and they still got to find a way to hold up. That is a key matchup. Now, to end the show, I just want to talk about my top 22. We're at number 20 as far as players that I think are most pivotal, not just to the Alabama game, but to Florida State having a very successful 2025 season. Daniel Lyons, defensive tackle at a Homestead. This is a kid that came in and played better, in my opinion, especially early last year, than any other defensive lineman for Florida State. He was a redshirt sophomore last year, so he's a redshirt junior now. 6'3", 295, 6'4", somewhere in that range. He could play defensive tackle. He could be a defensive end in the 3-man front, like in a power position if you really wanted him to, especially in goal line. But he'll probably play D tackle most of the time, whether it's 3 or 4. And he's a guy that plays with a lot of effort. If I could get a lot of guys like Daniel Lyons, I would do it every time. I take as many as I can get, really. Size, athleticism, and effort. If you've got all three, you're going to be a contributor. Curious to see if he takes another step up in terms of technique and being better at finding a way to really get off a block quickly, because he's talented. He's got the athleticism. I think he will start or be basically a co-starter. That's a guy that I like a lot, and I think Florida State fans should pay attention to him, because if he has a good year, it helps take pressure off Darrell Jackson, for one, James Williams, etc., because he's going to get single blocked by Bama early. They're going to double Darrell. That's guaranteed. He must hit, along with everybody else, Jason Jenkins, the entire lot. Like, Florida State's probably going to rotate about 8 guys, I would assume, in the down lineman. They're pretty deep. He's one of the keys, though. He has the motor and the athleticism and the size to be a game wrecker. Now, does he do it against Alabama, which has one of the best offensive lines in the country as well? Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Please hit that like, hit that subscribe, share this podcast, and comment down below. It really helps the algorithm. We will see you again soon here on Locked On Seminoles.